Godzilla Minus One is amazing. If that's what you wanted to know, then I can tell you straight away, go to the cinema and check it out while it's still showing. It's great. That's the review. Subscribe to this channel. Nah, seriously though, others have said it before, but it really is up there with the best in the series. I'd even go so far as to say you could remove Godzilla from the story entirely and it would still be an engaging drama about war and sacrifice and survival. It really is that good. Now there's already tons of reviews out here on YouTube and I'm not planning to add just another one to the pile. Instead, I'm gonna do things a little bit different, so this will be sort of a review, but from an EDF player's perspective.
EDF!
To be honest, it's mostly a comparison between the movie and the Earth Defense Force games, mixed with some of my own thoughts and ideas along the way. Because all the while I was watching the movie, I couldn't help but think of, well, EDF. And I know a lot of you are into EDF as well, so I thought maybe it's a good match. However, to properly do so, there will be some very minor spoilers from here on out, both for the movie as well as the latest entry in the Earth Defense Force series, EDF 6, which at the time of this recording hasn't been officially released outside of Japan yet. It's still scheduled for spring this year, but there's no definitive release date yet. But don't worry, I won't spoil the entire plot of the movie or the game or anything like that. Most, if not all of it, has been shown in trailers and websites already anyway. But if you want to experience both absolutely spoiler free, let me just reiterate one more time how good the movie is and then I'll send you on your merry way. The movie is very good. Now find the next theater that's still showing the movie, watch the translated EDF 6 playthrough afterwards and then come back for the rest of the video. With that out of the way, let's get to it. Now, the first thing that reminded me of EDF 6 was the actual story. Not so much the actual story of what's happening in the movie, but just the fact that it was so captivating. It was emotional, gripping, and really just surprisingly good. The same thing that surprised us all when EDF 6 came around. I mean, you usually watch a Godzilla movie for the big monsters, the destruction and the overall mayhem. The same thing most people play the EDF games for. But this time it really was the human drama, the emotional bond between our main characters and their struggles which kept me invested throughout the film. Sure, if you boil it all down, it was a bit cheesy and a bit predictable, it's not the best story ever conceived by human minds, but damn it if I wasn't rooting for the humans throughout the movie. I wanted them to succeed, I wanted to see them overcome their hardships and live to see another day and a better tomorrow. Which is weird, because the last time I saw a Godzilla movie in the theater was the American-made King of the Monsters from 2019 and I can't even recall what the human story was about. I vaguely remember the girl from Stranger Things being in it, but I honestly can't tell you what their story was. The human characters were so bland and uninteresting. Minus One is nothing like that. The human characters are front and center, and on top of that, there's a story about a giant monster. Just how EDF 6 surprised us all with the story and characters being front and center and not just an afterthought. Another thing that reminded me of EDF 6 was the general setting. A world in ruins, destroyed cities, the military in disarray, lack of resources, lack of food, citizens suffering from years of war. It really was just like the setting of EDF 6. And not just the setting, it went all the way down to the actual characters. Our main hero even has a sidekick, which is, well, your professor type, who, just like in EDF 6, always just knows things about the situation. Just how the professor in EDF 6 was always right with his assumptions regarding the Primus, Minus One's professor is always right about his assumptions regarding Godzilla. He comes up with a plan, he knows what to do, and the others, including Storm 1, here called Shikishima, help to fulfill that plan. Some character traits are shuffled around a bit, for example, instead of the professor suffering from survivor's guilt, in Godzilla Minus One that's our main hero's burden. But you'll notice a lot of character trait similarities between Godzilla Minus One's group of protagonists and the ones in EDF 6. Of course, you could argue in both cases those are just common tropes or stereotypes, especially when talking about Japanese media, but still they're similar nonetheless. Then the whole plan they come up with to stop the monster. It really reminded me of the various monster eradication plans in EDF 6, like how they tried multiple times to destroy a certain giant bird. There is a moment in the movie that has a group of news reporters broadcasting live from the scene when the giant monster attacks the city. And while I know it's a homage to the original 1954 movie, my first thought was the opening of the very first EDF game, the live broadcast when the mothership attacks the city.
現在生放送でお送りしております。これは特別報道です。SFX ではありません。
I gotta admit though, at that point I was already actively on the lookout for further similarities between the two properties, so I'm probably a bit biased in that regard. You could also argue that the Earth Defense Force series as a whole is obviously inspired by the original Godzilla and other kaiju movies, so of course there's bound to be similarities, but to that I say, yeah, you're probably right. Most of you will know that Godzilla Minus One is a period piece, taking place shortly after the Second World War. And while I was watching all those old military vehicles like tanks and airplanes attacking the giant monster, I thought to myself, hey, that might be an interesting setting for a new EDF game. A period piece EDF, if you will. I mean, the series is already inspired by old monster movies and science fiction stories from the 50s and 60s, so why not make an EDF game actually set during those times? They could go all in on the retro-futuristic sci-fi aesthetic, while also having military equipment and vehicles as well as the locations and cities resemble the time period. If you've seen movies like The Rocketeer or Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, you kinda know what look I mean. This sort of old-timey but still science fiction thing. I think it could be a fresh idea for the Earth Defense Force series. If not in the main title, then maybe in another spin-off? Yeah, and that's about it. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this isn't so much a traditional review, but more a collection of my thoughts, and not a very focused one at that. I just really enjoyed the movie and wanted to talk about it. And I think you'll enjoy it too, whether you're an EDF fan or not. But if you are into EDF, I think you'll notice those similarities as well, maybe even more, and you might enjoy the movie even better. And even if you don't like Godzilla and don't like the EDF games, I think you should still go and watch the movie. It's very different from the American-made Godzilla movies of late and well worth the attention it's been getting. The American interpretations seem to focus more on the action, the spectacle, the giant monsters fighting other giant monsters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, don't get me wrong. The 2014 Godzilla had some great monster fighting scenes, but they tend to lose focus of the human characters along the way. I mean, there's been 4 movies in the American Monsterverse series of kaiju films so far, with a 5th one coming later this year. And while they were all great spectacles, a lot of action, a lot of monster fighting, and just overall solid entertainment, I really struggle to explain the story. I mean, the human story. There's bits and pieces, but for the most part I can't even recall their names, or what they did in the movie. What's their motivation for being there? And with that still in the back of people's minds, Godzilla Minus One is a breath of fresh air. It's an almost perfect combination of both, relatable characters with a real story arc, real drama and tangible struggles to overcome, but you also get great monster action, destruction, mayhem, and boy, when Goji uses his atomic breath, there was just... I did not expect that. I was honestly in awe in the theater. Such raw power, it was just wow. I don't want to spoil it, but it was amazing. It made me really fearful of the creature. And since the characters felt so real, like real human beings, it made the supernatural element, the giant mysterious Saurus-class monster, feel real too. The danger was real. I mean, for those 2 hours at least. Just talking about it now, I feel like I want to watch it again, and you know what? I think that's just what I'm gonna do tonight. So what about you? Have you seen the movie yet? What are your thoughts? And what do you think about the idea of a period piece EDF game set in the 50s or 60s? Do you think that could work? Let's hear about your thoughts in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching, enjoy gaming, and
EDF! EDF!
subscribe to this channel. It's an awesome and amazing channel. Subscribe to this channel. All the girls